All right, welcoming in Michael Collins, America's caddy from the ESPN Golf team. Welcome, Michael, under the strap.
What's up?
Good to see you, dude. The beard's flowing nice.
Yeah, this is what happens when you haven't seen the barber for a little under a month. Um, the length I'm okay with. It's a little high maintenance, but what happens is when the side starts doing this, then that's when it becomes a face afro and not a beard. So it's like I need a little help on the sides.
I got you. No, I've been going to a little beard. I mean, mine's nowhere near yours. It never will be. I've been going to a little barber shop around the corner every once in a while, get a beard trim. That's a fun little
Man, it's
hangout.
nice. There's nothing like the information that you can find out when you just hanging out in a barber chair, right? Like if you really
Right.
want to know what's going on in the world, period, not just sports, but in the world, just go hang in a barber shop for a little while. But how come? Why do you say you're not gonna let this grow out the whole way?
Well, I'd have to try. I mean, I guess it would. It
Yeah,
would. I mean, I
two
would. It would
months,
probably be more like
2 months.
Tom Hanks and just do it.
Yeah, 2 months. What the key that I didn't learn until after the fact is this oil and balm, right? So like now where it looks like where yours is, it's probably not itchy or anything like that. It's like that perfect length where it just is the cool Hollywood look. But what happens is about 2 weeks from that, if you just don't do anything, that's when the itch starts happening. Cause your face
Right.
is like, yo, what's the deal, dude? What's going on? And you gotta use this, you put oil on and then a balm, this beard balm, which again, I mean, I started this as a tribute to my stepdad, so I had no idea because he always had a beard, so I had no idea like the high maintenance, and I'm a low maintenance dude, so this
Yeah.
became high maintenance, and there was some
Right.
like prevalent beard dudes, Archie
Yeah.
Bradley, the relief pitcher, and Ryan Fitzpatrick was a big one. Like, Fitzy, he just shut it down in
Yeah.
the NFL. But like when I first met him, I saw his beard and was like, man, I don't think I've ever said this to another man before, but bro, that is luscious, right? And so then him and Archie turned me on to oil and balm and kind of how to keep it
Okay.
nice.
All right. And you know another guy that has a really nice beard, old Tom Morris. How about
Yeah,
that?
right. Yeah. You know what though? If you really go back and look at pictures back then, there were 8-year olds that had beards. Like everybody back then had a beard. You know what I mean? Like, let me introduce you to my wife. Well, her beard is amazing, right? Like everybody had a beard back then. It was crazy.
That's true. That's
Yeah,
true. Well, hey, I know we're both disappointed we're not doing this live from the Swilken Bridge. You know, players and caddies stepping around us over at the
bruh.
St. Andrews at the home of
Yeah.
golf. But let's dive in. Open Championship, 150th edition. React to this statement,
All right.
okay? Before a shot is even hit, this is the most important golf tournament in the 21st century.
Um, man. Nah.
You don't agree with me?
Nah. You know what it is? We're
Okay.
all slaves to the moment.
Hmm.
Right? Let's be honest. I mean, everything that we see today is the greatest thing we've ever seen. It's the greatest thing
Right.
that's ever happened. And it's kind of like that's a thumb in the nose to history, right? Like why would this tournament be the most important tournament in history? Because it's one.
Well, I'll give you a couple.
Okay.
I'll give you a couple
All right,
things.
you give
Okay, so
me
one,
give me
obviously.
one and then I'll counter.
Okay. Well, I mean, Tiger's the first thing on my list, and it's not pinnacle Tiger. So we're getting, rehab Tiger. He's made a couple cuts at a major. It's not the same old Tiger, but Tiger at the Open Championship place he's won 2 times before.
Okay, but why does that make this one the most important one in history then? Just because he's
I'll
playing?
say no, no. He adds to it. He adds to it. I'll say this: I think the Live Tour thing, honestly, the moment we are at in golf with that tour kind of coming in and disrupting like it is, and then going to the home of golf, I just feel like it's this breaking bread celebration moment. That's really the biggest part for me when I
But
look
is
and say
this a
that stadium.
breaking bread? I don't understand when we say it's a breaking bread celebration moment. They told Greg Norman not don't come here,
Yeah.
right? That's not you're not breaking bread. Like there is still a very huge divide in between those two tours. Now, even if
Hmm.
let's say a live golfer wins this week, does that still make this the most important Open ever, or does it make people even more bitter? Because what's going to
Yeah.
happen is there are going to be some people that was like, some people will admit, hey, maybe we were wrong. Maybe these dudes really can still compete and
Yeah.
play.
Yeah.
But there are going to be other people that'll be like, if this wasn't at St. Andrews and they would have got the right side of the draw, something like this would have never. Like, there's people who there's nothing that can ever happen that's going to make it okay. So they're only going to come up with excuses for why this now happened and how horrific it is for golf. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree that the RNA did drop the ball on the Greg Norman thing. That was ridiculous, in my opinion. I think it's interesting. I think the JP McManus Pro-Am
Now
a
that
couple
was a
weeks ago
breaking
was,
bread moment. That was a
yeah,
breaking bread moment. And kind of watching
yeah,
Rory do this 180.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
but this is what happens. I've been saying it from the very beginning. And this has been so hard to try to be Switzerland because when you're Switzerland and you go, listen,
I know.
I need to hear from both sides, right? I need to hear sane things from both sides. But when you do that, then one side or sometimes both sides is always going to be like, how dare you listen to anything they have to say? Like, it's
Right,
kind of, if you want to be a well-rounded human being, you probably need to hear from everyone's side and not just screaming at one another. And so, like the JP McManus thing, and then the Rory kind of doing this one. It's not necessarily a 180, but man, he's really had to back off. But this is what happens when you start throwing rocks in a glass house.
hmm, yeah,
Like, if you're doing that, you getting cut too. So, like,
hmm,
all of these people that went attack, 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 like, and are only trying to focus on this one part, it's like, hey, man, you do realize, like, in this game, people got receipts on you too for where your money came from and who you
yeah,
got paid from, not even today, but maybe 5 or 10 years ago. Or like
hmm,
maybe you played a place that might not have great human rights record. So like when you
right,
start throwing those rocks in a glass house, what's gonna happen is you're gonna make somebody mad. They're gonna start digging up in your past. And now you're gonna be like, well, this ain't about me. Oh, yeah, it is now, stupid. Like this is what
yeah,
happens when you throw those rocks. So that's the danger of what's going on now. But also then the reason that so many people either one they just say what they gotta say and then go hide and just don't even try and act like, well, I don't even have to acknowledge what I did, or they're gonna be like, hey man, this is not okay, I'm not with this, blah blah blah, this and that, and then afterwards you're like, well, I understand why people kind of are doing what they're doing, and it's like, oh, somebody cashed your receipts in. I get you.
yeah. Yeah, no, the Switzerland comment's interesting. I mean, because I'm kind of covering this now too, and I'm trying to middle on this. And I had a chance to interview Heath Holt after him and Charles Schwartzel won the first live event, and I'm also catching up with Austin Kaiser, Xander's
Right.
caddy, and I mean, trying to give equal billing and
Yes.
ask the same questions and share the experience is kind of where
And
I'm
when
at
you
on it
do
right
that,
now.
then what happens? Like the fact that you talked to Heath, I'm sure people came out the woodwork and like, why don't you just go work for Liv? You're nothing but like a tool for them.
Right,
And now we see
right,
where you fall. And you're like, yo, hey man, take it
yeah,
easy. Like I can't
yeah,
there because that's the thing. I don't know. The thing that's difficult is it sure feels like the venom is really only coming from one side. It's very one-sided on this. And it's like if you're not with that side, then like you're against us and you coming and you're like, no, I'm friends with plenty of dudes that are still on the PGA Tour, and I still believe
yeah,
in the PGA Tour, and I still would call Jay Monahan a friend of mine. Like this is a dude
yeah,
who I fought for hardcore and still would. But it's like
mhm,
that doesn't mean that you shouldn't listen to what other people have to say or what they have going on, and then understand why this would be seen as a threat, and then kind of peel away all of the initial venom and like anger that's come out about it. And that's the hard part. The hard part is, for the tour side, when this first all went down, it was no one really took it seriously. And then when it happened, it was almost like the tour got broken up with, right? Like, how when somebody breaks up with you and you're not ready for it? Like, and at first you're like, F them. Like, I'll never, they ain't gonna do nothing. I don't wanna see them. And they're just evil, mean, like nothing, none of the issues that were brought up is ever comes out until later. And then when you get to that step after the breakup, you're like, well, I've been working on some things myself. I just didn't tell you that I was working on myself. Like, it was really was none of your business. Actually, it wasn't your business because we were together. But don't even worry about that. Just, I was doing things anyway. So there, right? And it just keeps it. Now we're seeing the progression of like, this breakup really happened. But now what?
Yeah. The tour was definitely a little complacent, and I think in the long run it's going to be good for the PGA Tour. I want to get a few of your thoughts on it maybe a little bit later. I also my other two reasons were, and you don't have to react to them, we can move on, but that you've got all these dominant players coming in, and a lot of that new guard has not played St. Andrews yet, so I find that particularly interesting. And then also the distance debate is always, it's kind of backseat right now, but I talked to Billy Foster a month ago, and he was talking about how, half these greens could be driven, and so we're going to see guys, banging it up there a lot more this week. It's super firm and fast, which is going to be super awesome viewing. Have you ever been to St. Andrews before?
Yeah, I've never. That's the one. There's two holes in my caddy resume, and I've never caddied an Open, but that one doesn't bother me, except that I never got to caddy at St. Andrews. So like that, if I was gonna caddy an Open, that's the only one I want to caddy. Like the other ones, whatever, you can keep them. Like having all 4 seasons in one day and having to carry all that stuff with 37 extra towels and whatnot, and then putting wet stuff back in a bag. We know how that like weighs things down, and like that umbrella never really gets dry, so that's an extra 4 pounds, right? So, and I've never caddied the Masters, so and that one bothers me a lot. But that being said, it's interesting that you brought up the distance debate, because this is the one major championship where they allow Mother Nature to dictate what the score is. And no one has the problem with it. Right? They talk about it before the tournament starts. It's always like, what happens if there's no wind and they shoot 20 under? And then if it happens, you're like, man, it was still kind of awesome. And we all know, like we know. And there are other ones when it's like, famously, Brooks Koepka, when there was the wind problem the last time, and that dude was trying to make Brooks Koepka play, and he was like, F you, I ain't playing. And he was like, you're speaking to a Lord. He was like, I don't care if I'm speaking to Jesus. You can kiss my ass. I'm not hitting this putt if the ball's moving. Right? Like, which, again, like, if it's over score par because it was 30 degrees and blowing 70 miles an hour, no one is like, we got to do something. We got to change. Like, nah, that's just what this tournament is. And that's the beauty of St. Andrews. That's why this course has held up to the test of time. And I think will continue to. Well, no matter what. Even when guys we know are going to be hitting the ball over 400 yards. Like, does that necessarily mean that you're going to be able to absolutely destroy St. Andrews? No. We see that already. How many times we know of guys who can send it, and they're like, man, hell, Bryson DeChambeau he ate a big giant puma when he was like, this place is gonna be Masters now is gonna be a par 65. You'd be like, yeah, not for you, stupid. Like, Right? So, yeah, the whole distance debate and equipment and the golf ball and whatnot. For this week, it's one of those things that because we have to fill so much time starting this past Monday,
Right.
it's an easy time fill because it's an easy thing that people can like. All right, I'm gonna pick a side. It's easy. We can just go an hour about that. But in reality, once the tournament starts and once it's over, I still have yet to hear anybody. Louis Oosthuizen has shot 31 under par the last two times that they were at the Open, and he finished first and second, and no one was like, we got to stop going to St. Andrews. No
Right.
one's ever going to say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I love that about how the RNA sets up the Open Championship. It's awesome. It's just whatever the weather is that season, that week is what you get.
Slow the
How
greens
about
down even more. That was one of the greatest
yeah,
things Trevino told me. Like, if you really want scores to not be super duper low, make them greens 8. And watch pro
yeah.
golfers try to putt on greens that are running at 8. They will lose their minds, right? See, you know it. Because, see, putting on super fast greens for pros is actually easier. Because you don't have to hit a putt. Like, you don't have to really make a solid hit on a putt. Where if you got a 4-foot putt that's running on an 8 on a stimp, dudes were going to not even touch the hole. And then they're going to be like screaming and
Mm-hmm.
cursing and, oh, bro. They'll be doing a Grayson Murray. Just,
Well, with that in mind, I mean, you're right. That is something where, some of the guys that play on the European Tour, play a little more links golf, kind of are more used to that. I did see a note yesterday. Tiger puts lead tape on the back of his putter every year at the Open Championship, what I thought was really cool. Give people an idea of the player caddy preparation for this week specifically. I mean, Will Zalatoris said he's never written so many notes in his yardage book already here on Monday or Tuesday. And then you can kind of contrast that with like maybe an advantage like a guy like Tiger Woods might have. Execution still paramount, but there's a lot of like on the fly figuring this thing
right.
out.
That's the one thing that's very difficult. It's difficult to go, you can't write notes down for all these wind occasions. And you can't write notes down for, well, what happens if I get in this situation here? Because
Yep.
it's like, well, if I'm in this situation, but the pin is here, that's different than if it's here. And if I get in this situation and the wind is here, but the pin's here, and the bunker is now in play, now it's not in play. And sometimes that's where information can be harmful.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of, hey man, remember that time when you were 11 years old and you just had to figure it out and you're really
Yep.
good at that? I need you
Instinct.
to talk to that 11-year-old right now. What would that
Yep.
11-year-old look at this and go, this is awesome because I got to play this weird, funky shot that I don't normally get to play. And I think
Yep.
that's the guys who embrace that faster are going to be more successful. And the guys who fight it, they're going to struggle. And that's the
Yep.
conversations that like caddies and players have to have. It's like, hey, what happens when we get in this? Well, we'll worry about that if we get in that situation. Like St. Andrews is one of those places where it's very difficult to plan for something to happen because normally when you do it, it never happens.
Right. Yep. Yeah, your improvisation's going to have to be on
Yeah.
point, and Jordan Spieth obviously comes to mind as a guy that kind of takes to it pretty quickly. You mentioned this a couple times, but let's talk seriously about these bunkers, and then let's make some jokes. I mean, let's talk about bunkers, man. I mean, these are some of the most difficult, nasty. Man, I didn't know that one was there. Bunkers in the
Because of the
world.
wind. You know what's awesome about them though? Caddies don't have to rake them.
Yeah, that's
Like
true. You got a guy trailing
this,
behind you.
people don't notice. Like there's a guy in every group that goes out, and his only job, he just walks with a rake. That's it. Like that's the gig. You get the full Open Championship outfit. All I gotta do is I get to walk with this crew, the pros and caddies, and like I'm just raking bunkers. What if they don't get in a bunker? I still get to keep all this stuff though, for real. Like that's
Yeah.
That's the funny thing. But like these,
The equivalent of that would be the Wimbledon ball boy. Would you agree?
kind of, yeah, kind of. Except I wouldn't want to be the one at the net. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Because
Taking fire.
yeah, those kids like you got to make a split-second decision if the ball hits the net and it's going towards the player. Like, do
Right.
you run up and then go back to where you were? Do you run the whole way across? Are you making that big arch or stuff like that? Like,
A little more on
yeah,
display.
man. I mean, I don't know. Can you imagine telling somebody you want to practice that? Listen, I need you, I need you to,
Seinfeld did a great
that would have
episode
been
of
an
that.
awesome there. Like, you just practicing to be a ball boy. Like, oh man, your
Yeah.
ball boy skills is terrible. And that's what I would think about raking those bunkers too. That's the other thing where people don't understand as a caddy. The direction that you rake makes a huge difference as
Yeah.
well, especially in
Mm-hmm.
bunkers like that, which is why they have one specific person so caddies
Yep.
can't mess it up.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. You want that rake mark going towards the line of play if
yes, if
possible.
possible.
Nick Faldo. Nick Faldo said something to the effect of, "It's one of the most strategic golf courses in the world, and it was laid out by a bunch of sheep."
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what that is. It's crazy to think like, hey man, how did this bunker get here? That don't make no sense. Well, they dropped a bomb in World War II. Like what? And the sheep were out here cutting the grass. What? I
Yeah.
mean,
All right.
it's crazy to think, but that's the love of the topography of the land and how like some of those
Mhm.
bunkers, you hear Tiger and them talking about it too, how some of those bunkers you don't even know they're there if you've only played it in one specific wind direction. And
Right.
then you're like, what bunker is everybody talking about? And then the wind
Yeah.
will switch and you'll be in a bunker going, hey man, how come you didn't tell me about that bunker? Be like, I've been walking with you the whole time. Like I didn't even know it was here either. We're in play, you know.
I I think this week though the guys are going to maybe get off the hook a little bit because I saw west southwest the
The
whole
whole
time. Now I
time.
would never want to be a weatherman in Scotland. I mean that talk about one of the hardest jobs
Hard?
in the
That's not
world.
hard. You don't got to do nothing. You as a
You're
weatherman,
never
you're over there
expected.
just smoking weed. The weather for today, yes. That's it. So you
Really
gotta
either.
say yes, yes. We will have weather today. Like, where's the wind coming from? Yes, I just said that. Yes, we're having wind too.
Right.
Is it gonna rain? Yes, we're having
Yes.
weather. I'll
Weather.
be over here. Give me my money.
Well, one of the other things we get this week is we get that kind of more European style TV broadcast. You've got that. You've got the American style. The Liv's kind of doing their own thing now. What's your take on the current state of golf broadcasting? And then what would you like to see be done differently or better?
Ooh, man, that's a really good question. Um, you know what
I mean, I always
one of the
they're going to do the shots of the panoramic shots of the kid licking the ice cream cone this week and all that.
there's always going to be something like that, you know what I mean? And the pasties and I mean, look, I'm a big fan of show me as a fan, as if I'm a fan in America, show me what at this golf course is different than what I would see at an American golf course. So like show me
Right.
what the different foods are. Show me what the different drinks are. Show me like just whatever's different. Whatever that I don't normally see, show me that. There's a couple of things that I love that the European side does that we don't do in America that I think we could
Hmm.
be much better at. But I think it
Okay.
also has to do with the players, and that is the in-round walk and talk.
Mm,
I think it's
you'd be great
I
at that.
thanks, man. I think that what that's the thing is number one, you have to have a trust from the players, right? So the player has to know whoever's going to do this walk and talk is not going to ask them or talk about something that's going to mess them up,
Right.
which is not always easy to do. That's one of the things like I remember back in the day when I was just doing Sirius XM radio and they started wanting me to do the pregame. Hey, we want you to do some pre-round interviews with a dude on Saturday and Sunday. And I was like, yeah, nah, I'm not doing that. And they were like,
Yeah.
well, you have to. And I go, no, I don't. I'm not doing that. And for a long time, because I wouldn't do it. And here was why. 8 months. 8 months. Every single dude that agreed to do the pre-round didn't win.
Shot over par.
Yes, and didn't win. And they were like, why
Yeah.
aren't you doing these interviews? And I go, because I'm not going to be the last dude that somebody sees and talks to before they go play bad. There's nothing that you can ask someone that would be helpful before the round. Nothing. You're not going to find anything out in a 20-second. You know, we talked to so-and-so right before he went off, and now he went out and shot 62. That never happens. The only thing that can happen is that dude's going to see you at the next tournament and be like, talk to you, and then went out and shot 83, mother. Like, you going to be like, nothing good can happen. But during the round, I think when you can talk to somebody about, hey, man, like, you're in the middle of it. How are the conditions changing? I love that. I think they did it at Colonial.
I saw it at the Irish Open this year.
And at Colonial, remember they had a camera, a static camera, and a microphone set up on the 10th tee. So dudes making the turn could walk right over to that camera, look in the camera, and microphone, say whatever they want. Now, of course, I mean, there was probably plenty of dudes that they couldn't put that out there live, but I'm sure there's plenty of times where people would have been like, heck yeah, put it out there. So the other, my biggest pet peeve, the one, if I hear like people have to say that one more time, broadcasters, stop apologizing for dudes cursing on the air. Okay? Stop it. Like, don't do that. And here's why. We all know, all of us, players, caddies, and all the broadcasters, everybody on every single channel, we all know the dudes that curse. We all know them. So if you turn on the microphone around one of them dudes that curses, then you don't get to be like, we apologize for any offensive language you might have heard. No, you don't. You had the microphone on around a dude that you knew cursed. So shut up and stop trying to act like, oh, we were surprised at that. No, you weren't. It's why you left the microphone on after dude missed the putt or after dude hit it terrible off the tee. So stop it. Stop trying to act like, oh, we're sorry. No, you're not. That's why you left the mic on. No one is naive enough nowadays to be like, wow, I wasn't expecting that. Oh, whatever. Grow up. Just grow up.
Yeah, the more player, they've been doing a better job, the networks, of getting the player caddy stuff going. The even more of that, obviously, people want that.
That's one thing that LIV is doing fantastic. They're miking up a lot of caddies to get that conversation in between player and caddy, either on the green or on the tee, to hear the whole conversation of guys talking through clubs or talking through a read on a putt. And that kind of stuff is fascinating. So I think that's one of the things I think a lot of, both on the European side and on the PGA Tour side, I think, ideas like that are awesome. And they're also, which I didn't realize, they're paying really nicely.
Yeah, they are. Well, of course they are.
Well,
Michael.
yeah, no.
They're paying everything.
I know, that's true. But it's one of those things where, hey, you know what I mean? Like, people go, we don't quite have that in our budget. And then someone else pays for it, and they get great content, and they're like, hey, look, open that closet door. There's money in there.
Yeah,
hey, we got money to give y'all. Like, yeah, okay. So you didn't have money before, but then magically, now that you got proof of concept, hey, guess what? We found money. Okay. And they think people are that's amazing. Like, they think people are stupid.
On the greens, that's a new one. I need to tune into that. What are your expectations for Tiger this week? What's a realistic ceiling, and what is a dream scenario?
I mean, the dream is to get into contention. That's the dream. Is it realistic? I don't know that it's realistic. And the other thing too, here's the hardest part with Tiger is, like, there's a limited amount of miles that you can put on that leg, right? Before before the structure of the leg just goes, hey, I'm good. I'm not doing that no more. Right? Tiger is the greatest athlete we've ever seen when it comes to mind over matter. But at some point, the matter does not care what the mind is telling it to do. And that's part of what we saw at the PGA Championship, which people so easily forget. And I'll say the same thing about this week that I said about the PGA. I don't care what Tiger looks like on Thursday and Friday. That's not the part that matters. What matters is, what does Tiger look like on Saturday when the miles now have piled up? Like when you haven't had the amount of recovery time and been able to do the routine that you normally have needed to do in order to make that leg as good as it's going to be. So I believe Tiger can make the cut, but then the big question mark is like, what Tiger do we get on Saturday and Sunday? We saw that at the Masters. We saw it at the PGA when after even, through Saturday was like, you know what? I'm out. Like, I can't do this. And it's not because he didn't want to, the cold and everything about that body then, which also people forget, man, once the leg is good, you're like, no, he still had 5 back surgeries and he's 46. Like, take it easy. If it's 50 degrees, it could be a problem. So the dream scenarios for Tiger to get into contention and like have a chance on Sunday, but I think our realistic expectation should be this Tiger to now play good, hopefully through Saturday, and then maybe on Sunday, that's when you start seeing, oh man, he's a little gassed, he's having a tough time getting like pushing on like that. That I think is a realistic expectation. But I don't think making the cut is even. Yeah. That's not even a question.
That's certainly in play. We wouldn't be surprised to see him win by 5. But he does the thing he has going for him this week. Obviously, the little flatter walk, and then from a competitive standpoint, with the firm conditions, is right up his alley because he's going to be able to think his way around here, and he'll know he'll be able to know what a good shot is out there. That the other
sometimes this is the big playing that firm and that fast. Now this also brings into you're going to go over humps and bumps that you didn't necessarily anticipate, and whether it goes left off of that hump or right off of that hump is going to be a huge thing. The one thing we have to be careful when we talk about this is a flatter, easier walk. It is flatter than Augusta, and it is flatter than Southern Hills. What it's not is flat. So what we do have to remember is, even though this is a not as hilly, like you're not going up as steeply, you're not coming down as steeply. What this course is not is flat lies.
Right. Yeah.
That's where we have to be kind of careful. So sometimes maybe hitting off a little bit of a downslope, or hitting off a side slope, or hitting off an upslope, that's also not good for the leg. Like we saw last week when Kitayama was in the bunker and was hit the shot from his knees. Like, imagine if Tiger got into a position like that where I might have to hit a shot off my knees awkwardly. Like, every single one of us as a golf fan, as a Tiger fan, would be like, timeout, F that. Joey, get the ball.
He gets a free drop.
Yes. Like, no, I don't even care if it's free. Are you taking the penalty stroke and coming? I'm not watching no disaster, okay? I'm not watching that. Right. Take the penalty stroke and drop it outside. I don't care. Yeah. Be like, I don't think anyone's allowed to do. Well, Tiger is. We not. Nope. Not. So that's you got to be careful. Like, the walk itself is not nearly the same. But that doesn't make it necessarily like super easier. It just makes it different.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, you referenced kind of the luck that might be involved, and then I did see a lot of correlation, and I can't take full credit for this. It's just an idea that someone planted. But when I was kind of looking at who I liked this week, there was a lot of correlation to Augusta, and I think maybe the uneven lies out there has a lot to do with it, the creativity, and on the greens as well. With that in mind, I mean, let's talk about some guys this week. I've got who I think is going to win. I've got a nice in-play medium long shot, and I've got a bomb. I don't want to put you on the spot.
You got a bomb too?
I got a bomb. Who do you like to win this week? Who's your pick? If you have one.
I do. And actually put stuff out on ESPN Plus, and I think that goes up tomorrow.
Okay.
So I won't say why, because I don't. You gotta. I gotta tease
Go watch it.
something,
Yeah,
right?
this is a good
I gotta
tee.
tease
Okay.
something. But here's a under the radar name that's hard to believe has been under the radar. But how about Tommy Fleetwood?
Yeah,
Yeah, and I mean, I think
that'd be a great
Caesars
story.
had him at plus 2,800, and again, yeah, that would be a really fantastic story. And then my mid guy, who I think is at plus 4,000 as well, and the guy who I just mentioned earlier, who has lit this place up, and this is a place you don't have to be a great putter. Louis Oosthuizen,
Mm-hmm.
like who hasn't been
Yeah,
playing bad golf either, and that's the
yeah.
thing about Louis. But that's also one of those things like, and like in Rory's eyes, this is a nightmare scenario. Like one of the live dudes wins, and that would be so. Let me get this straight. Charles Schwartzel wins the first event in London. Brandon Grace wins the second event in Portland, and
Yeah.
Louis wins the Open. Like
Mm-hmm.
you want to have people pulling their hair out. Be like, I don't. Either there might only be one place. Like South Africa might be the only place. Be like, sorry, not sorry.
That's true. That'd be a South African three-peat. Yeah, no, my live pick was Dustin Johnson at 40 to
Yeah.
1.
Why
Um,
DJ?
I I just think that yeah he hasn't been playing amazing, but
But you
I
can see
think
signs.
if his driver gets going, and then I think he's got a lot of that creativity aspect to him too, just the kind of raw, kind of like, hey, we're gonna make some birdies and not make dumb
Mm.
mistakes. I don't know. I like the odds at 40 to 1. I do think Rory is your winner, even at 9 to 1. When I look at the names of who's won this thing at St. Andrews, other than Louis and Zach, who are tremendous, Hall of
Right.
Fame,
Well, Zach won in the
borderline Hall
weather
of Fame
one, which is twice.
in the weather one.
He won the Masters when it was 13 degrees. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And all the azaleas
Yep.
was frozen, which is crazy.
Yeah. And he had the weather wave here
Yeah,
too.
and then he
Yeah, at the
won
Open. You're
when the
right.
weather wave happened here. So
Yeah.
that's if the weather really moves in. Yeah, the only thing that I mean, Rory winning would be amazing and fitting here as well. Um, the only thing that scares me about Rory is um, the pressure that he would put on himself
Yeah.
because of it. Like because he's such an introspective human now. Um,
Mm.
I think there are demons and baggage that could pop up. Like, let's say he got to Saturday in contention. Like, Rory still has, when it's the biggest of the biggest events, Rory still has that one round where you go, oh, no.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
so then on Sunday, when he's out of it and backdoor top fives, everybody's like, why does he
Well,
do
I
that?
mean,
You're like, well, it's easier to play when when you think you got no shot.
yeah. I mean, you cover him. I mean, you're around him in those
I'm
moments,
sure
and
he's mad at me
and
for saying that all the time too, and I don't mean that. And that's the thing that sucks too about like I never mean any of that stuff in a mean, disparaging way. But it's hard. Like winning on the PGA Tour is really hard, and when you're
Yeah.
now like the new face for the PGA Tour and the unofficial spokesman when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
like being the guy, the rah rah dude, like it's me and Justin Thomas. We got to be out there, out
Yeah.
in front. Like we're the dudes. And so like that's an extra little something that other dudes don't have to deal with. And it's not. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean it's fair. It doesn't mean it's right. It just is how it is. Like that's. And he took up that mantle, and I can't. Could you imagine if Rory was like, "Hey, look, I'm not going to comment on any of that stuff." Like,
Yeah.
what would the backlash be then? Right?
Yeah.
That'd be even worse.
Yeah.
But so it's
Yeah.
not like he had the choice. He didn't have the choice to be like, yeah, I'm not trying to get into all that. I'm just imagine if Roy was like, I'm just here to play golf so I don't get fined. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, he's been fantastic. He's been
Yeah,
fantastic.
and he's made some faux pas steps and whatnot too, which is why we are where we
Yeah.
are. And it's okay. Like people are gonna do that. That's what being human is.
I'm not going to I should give all my picks away, but Tony Finau intrigues me this week. And then a bomb on Kevin Kisner at 250 to 1. I'm going to go over to the boats right now in Council Bluffs. You know where they are. I'm going to go over there, put whatever. I mean, if you want to get in on me with it, we can split it.
See, look. Here's the thing about Kiz, where like that pick that really, I might need to Venmo you. I'm going to Zelle you a little something. And here's why. It's because of where Kiz lives and the course that he lives on and plays. Right? Like that golf course is a very firm, when it's very firm and fast, also has some quirky bounces that can happen on it, and has greens that they usually keep them crazy lightning, but those greens also have some funky contours in them, where if you're in the wrong spot, you got to play some extremely creative shots that you don't normally play in the United States, that are more like you have to play over here. So 250 to 1 is man. But look, man, let's, if we're being 100% honest, okay? It's not easy to see or visualize that dude wearing the blue jacket on Sunday night going, and the 2022 champion golfer of the year, Kevin Kisner from USA. You'd be like, nah.
But his balls would be dragging across the green. Here's the thing,
Dewey's
Michael,
calves would just be like, whoop, whoop, whoop.
Balls and calves. I mean, here's the thing. When you look at who wins this thing, and you know this, these guys know what's at stake. Yes. And you look at who's on the trophies, and then you look at second place. And I'm not knocking second place or third place, but the names don't always match up. It's who not only who's playing well enough, but who is ballsy enough to take it in the end. And there's only a certain number of guys that are willing to do that.
Yeah, and that's when on Sunday that 4.5 to 5 footer. That's when you got to have the cojones to be like, this is my trophy. And that's it. Like, man, I really want this. Man, I've really dreamed. No, you go, this is mine, and you may not have it, period. And, like, that's also having somebody you look over at. And when you look at them, and they're giving you that steely-eyed, like, as a caddy, man, there's nothing that feels better like knowing your player looks over at you for that support, and you're looking at him like, yeah, bitch, it's us. And ain't nobody taking this. Right? Like, because then you can see the look in their eyes like, yeah, all right. Like, we're the corner man. Like, that's the thing. We don't get to experience that a lot. And there are certain dudes that are really good at it. Really good at it. Because everybody's feeling the same thing. But, like, to be able on the outside to have that, to make someone else look at you and go, oh snap, like this, okay, and like that's why we do what we do, man. That's why we love it. That's for those moments, you know.
Yeah, it's one of the most unique jobs in sports. It's super addicting too.